It's 3 p.m. now, Cairo local time. It's a very good afternoon to our viewers and welcome to the afternoon's English news bulletin. My name is Angie Meher, delighted to be in the company of my dear colleague, Sarah Slim. Good afternoon to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Angie. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will start our news bulletin with the headlines. President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi leaves Norway, heading to Ireland after an official visit lasts for 3 days. Syrian opposition says Israeli occupation war plans pound Syria as troops advance deeper. Israeli occupation strikes across the Gaza Strip kills at least 34 Palestinians.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now the details in full. President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi left Norway on Tuesday, heading to Ireland after an official visit that lasted for 3 days. The President's visit to Ireland is the third and last visit in his European tour. Before leaving Norway, President el-Sisi met with the CEO of Norwegian company Scatec and the CEO of another investment fund for developing countries, as well as the chairperson of a Norwegian company called Yara. President's meetings came on the sidelines of an official visit the President is making to Norway as part of his European tour. Presidential spokesperson said the meeting reviewed the ambitious economic development program implemented by Egypt, adding that Egypt attaches a great deal of importance to attract foreign direct investments to its markets, as well as support foreign companies working in Egypt. Sisi also asserted Egypt's keenness to be a center for green energy in the region. The meeting also tackled cooperation opportunities with the Norwegian Investment Fund in developing countries, as well as expanding the projects of the other companies operating in Egypt.
President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi highlighted the great importance Egypt attached to attract foreign direct investments in its markets. The President's remarks came during a business banquet at the Norwegian National Museum. The dinner was attended by Norway's Crown Prince Haakon Magnusson and the Norwegian Minister of International Development and Nordic Cooperation in Tvenersum, as well as senior officials of Norwegian companies and investment funds. During the banquet, President el-Sisi said that the Egyptian government adopted an ambitious plan to enhance the role of the private sector in driving economic development process by providing facilities and incentives for foreign investors and overcoming any obstacles may face them. The President also invited all Norwegian companies and investment funds to augment their presence to the Egyptian market. President el-Sisi's visit to Norway is gaining momentum, being the first trip by an Egyptian leader to the European country since the establishment of diplomatic ties.
Earlier, President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi invited Norway's King Harald V to visit Egypt for the grand opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum known as GEM. President's remarks came during his official visit to Norway, where he met with His Majesty the King. The visit is the second leg of President el-Sisi's European tour that took him first to Denmark and also includes a visit to Ireland. For his part, the Norwegian monarch expressed his country's appreciation for Egypt's key role in Africa and the Middle East. Both leaders also discussed ways to align their positions on international platforms regarding mutual interests. Syrian opposition war monitors said Tuesday that Israel occupation carried out a wave of heavy airstrikes across Syria as its troops advanced deeper into the country, drawing to within 25 kilometers of the capital. Israel denied its forces were advancing forward Damascus. Reporters in Damascus also heard heavy airstrikes overnight and on Tuesday on the city and its suburbs. Israel had earlier seized a roughly 400 square kilometer buffer zone inside Syria that had been established after the 1973 Mideast war. A war monitor also said that Israeli occupation had conducted 300 strikes on Syria, adding that the raids had destroyed the most important military sites in the country. United Nations said Israeli bombardment of Syria must stop as a UN Special Envoy for Syria called Tuesday on the Israeli occupation to halt its military movements and bombardments in Syria. The Israeli occupation conducted many strikes on Syria since the war began in 2011. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said it had recorded more than 300 Israeli strikes. UN Special Envoy for Syria called on Israel to stop, adding that they're continuing to see Israeli occupation movements and bombardments into Syrian territory. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that Turkey has no interest in expanding its reach into Syria with its cross-border operations only aimed at defending the country from terror attacks. However, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan discussed the latest developments in Syria in phone call with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. During the call, Erdogan stated that Turkey will keep doing everything in its power for the establishment of a united and terror-free Syria.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that Daesh terrorists will try to use this period to re-establish capabilities in Syria, but said the U.S. is determined not to let that happen. Blinken said Syrians have to choose their future, adding that statements by the rebel leaders towards building inclusive governance were welcome, but the real measure would be in the action they take, not just what they say.
Israeli occupation forces strikes across the Gaza Strip killed at least 34 Palestinians overnight and on Tuesday as Israeli occupation tanks pushed into areas in central and southern parts of the enclave. An Israeli occupation airstrike killed at least 25 people in Beit Hanun in northern Gaza and injured dozens of others in a multi-floored building. The Palestinian Civil Emergency said most of those killed were from the same family, including women and children. Another strike on a house in the Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza killed at least 7 people.
Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in court in Tel Aviv on Tuesday to testify for the first time in his corruption case. Netanyahu, who has repeatedly sought to delay his appearance in court, is the first sitting Prime Minister of Israel to face a criminal trial. He faces charges of bribery, fraud and breach of public trust in 3 separate cases.
The Kremlin said on Tuesday that the Ukraine war would continue until the goals set by President Vladimir Putin were achieved by military action or by negotiation. However, the Russian Defense Ministry said the Russian forces have captured the village of Zovt in eastern Ukraine. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has left tens of thousands of dead, displaced millions, and triggered the biggest crisis in relations between Moscow and the West since the 1962 Kuban missile crisis.
The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Tuesday that China's behavior has threatened regional stability. His remarks came after Taiwan said Beijing was carrying out its biggest maritime mobilization around the South-ruled island in years.
Now we will move to the economic and business sector. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli conducts an inspection tour in Port Said, governorate of a number of industrial, developmental and service projects. Prime Minister Madbouli said the tour includes visiting work and production sites in the industrial sector, which is the driving force of the economy. Madbouli stressed that this visit comes as a continuation of a series of field tours in various governorates to monitor the progress of service and development projects. The industrial sector contributes to enhance growth rates, increasing job opportunities, and it also gains advantages in Port Said due to its proximity to export ports.
European equities dipped on Tuesday, taking cues from tech-led declines on Wall Street rather than building on stimulus-fueled gains in China, whilst the Australian dollar slid as the central bank suggested rate cuts were finally approaching. Germany's DAX edged 0.1% lower to 20,322.69, and the CAC 40 in Paris fell 0.6%. Britain's FTSE 100 also fell 0.6%. Futures for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average were also down less than 0.1%. Market superstar shares fell 0.8% in pre-market trading, extending a 2.6% loss after China said it was investigating the company over suspected violations of Chinese anti-monopoly laws. Meanwhile, the Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.6%, closing at 3,422.66, whilst Hong Kong's Hang Seng shed early gains, falling 0.5% to 20,311.28, as traders sold to lock in profits from earlier gains.
Oil prices slipped on Tuesday as concerns eased about the potential regional Syrian situation, but China news gave some support. Brent crude futures were flat at $72.11 a barrel. Gold nudged up to $2,664 an ounce, while Bitcoin fetched $97,526. On the other hand, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries is set to re-elect current Secretary General Haytham Al-Ghis for a second three-year term at a virtual meeting on December 10. The meeting is expected to be brief, handling only administrative matters. Kuwait's Al-Ghis became head of the organization in January 2022, succeeding Nigeria's Mohammed Barkindo.
Now moving to the exciting world of sports, kicking off with Paris Saint-Germain manager Luis Enrique, who believes his side have what it takes to defeat RB Salzburg on Tuesday in a game they must win despite a nightmare start to the Champions League campaign. PSG have 4 points from 5 games and risk missing the cut for the knockout stage as they sit in 25th place, 2 points outside playoff positions. However, the French side's defeats have come against high-caliber opponents, including Champions League regulars Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich, plus last season's Premier League runners-up Arsenal. They can also take heart from their performances in Ligue 1, where they're unbeaten after 14 matches and have a 5-point lead at the top.
Welcome back. Karl Anthony Towns scored the go-ahead layup in the final minute and had 24 points and 15 rebounds at the visiting New York.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up our English news bulletin. Delighted to be in your company. My name is Angie Meher. Many thanks to Sarah Slim. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you, Angie. It was a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching.